in your work life, have you then had, have you an example of a manager or a leader who has made your life either harder or easier by adjusting their behavior because they understood you better?
The trait that I find best in managers of neurodivergent people as well as neurotypical people is kindness. And I have that at the moment from, our wonderful role
Yes.
at Microsoft. Because one of the traits that some of us have is that any kind of mistake or shame hits really hard. And it can really send us into a spiral.
Yeah.
So Wall has a way of, if there's a problem, he'll speak one-to-one because you praise in public, criticise in private. That's always useful. And he is both direct but calm. Yes, you've made an error here. And sometimes he says, help me to understand why you thought this was a good idea. And I'm going, no, well, I've just made a mistake, it's okay. Help me to understand is a good phrase that I think psychologists use. To say, not why did you do that, but help me to understand. And aren't we all a little bit autistic? These days I have a wonderful answer, which is yes, in the way that two constellations can share a couple of stars. So we can overlap.
Yeah, okay.
But when psychologists or psychiatrists are doing a diagnosis, they're looking for a particular constellation. And as Mako said, we don't like to say, oh, okay, it's fine, there's no disability there. So it's not to diminish the difficulties that people face on a day-to-day basis. And yes, having this combination of traits can make life extremely difficult. But so that's a kind way of saying, yeah, for sure we overlap. You've noticed that.
Yeah.
But this is what's different about us.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Just writing some notes.
Yeah.
We've got an internal team at Combank looking at neurodiversity and inclusion. That's the leadership team. What we can do, part of the team. It's just really interesting. I think leading with kindness is perfect. And sometimes I just wrote a few bits down, help me to understand. I think 100% of my children want
As someone who banks with Combank, as a customer of yours, I feel great. I feel great about hearing that. We're kind of in this odd paradox in that you're our client and I'm your customer.
Very nice. Have you ever experienced that leaders make assumptions about neurodiverse people?
Not just leaders.
Oh, okay.
I was diagnosed with what was then known as
ADD, yeah.
in 2004, and so I share a lot of sort of comorbidities with autism, but as far as I know, I'm not autistic myself. But at that time, people didn't really understand ADD versus ADHD, so they'd always say, you didn't seem that hyperactive, you didn't seem that like bouncing off the wall and stuff like that. And it took me a while to explain, like, no, it's different. I'm looking out the window instead of like doing my homework, stuff like that. So there was always a lot of like, but you seem really calm. It's like, I'm too calm.
Let's focus on the attention deficit side, shall we?
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where if you are maybe able to present as like semi-neurotypical, then people will make assumptions that either it's like mild or it's something to be not worried about too much.
Right.
I do feel like people they aren't fully equipped to basically deal with that grey area. Like they either want to treat you as someone who's completely alien and different to them, but as soon as I like mask a bit and seem like a normal human being, then they're like, cool, you're like, you know, they sort of forget that there's any sort of like autism or any sort of difficulty there. And it's like, no, it's about having limited capacity for certain things, you know? Like it's almost an uncanny valley for a lot of neurotypical people of like, well, you seem like me, but then not quite, and hence you end up being a little bit harsher in that like, well, you seem fully capable, but then you ask too many questions after the meeting, and that sort of leads them to feel more negatively about you, because it's like, you seem like you're being difficult, but it's like, no, I need you to remember, like, it's not one or the other, like we're somewhere in the middle here. That we do need some accommodations, and like you need to remember that instead of assuming I'm being difficult by asking for clarification that you might seem a success, but for me it's coming from pure confusion.
A question on that, and something that I've seen within our teams, is it a good thing in your minds, and open to everybody, that the team know you're neurodiverse, or better that they don't know? Because we've had consultants from Auticon asking that people don't know and that people do know, and we've had a really good reaction. Really good reaction when people do know from our team, and other people shared their own backgrounds, which has been really interesting. But also, we did have a consultant who didn't want to be known, which is completely fair enough.
Just another handy phrase. If you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person.
I was actually going to say something like that. Like, we're all so different, I think, so each person is going to be different. So, yeah, like in my experience, I've only disclosed when I had to. So, because I feel like if people are generally kind, they don't have to know. Like, if you're that kind of person, you're open to differences. Some people just don't need that label. They're just okay with people being a bit different. Like, so in those cases, I don't really need to disclose. But then there's been times where, that's been a problem, and then you have to put the label on it, and then they can move on with it, like, or not.
Decision.
And I definitely prefer to disclose, because otherwise, like sometimes my tone is too direct, and like if I'm being judged by neurotypical rules, I'm being a bit rude, I'm being confrontational. But it's like, no, there was no subtext. What I said was what I said. Like, it was genuinely just a question. While, because I didn't control my tone right, like, otherwise they would assume hidden subtext. Also then, like, if I break eye contact with someone, they often assume, I think, like, neurotypical rules are you have stopped paying attention. While for me, it's, no, I'm still focusing, I'm just, my eyes are going somewhere else. So that's why I prefer, I'm a bit, tired of being judged by neurotypical rules. So I prefer to disclose so that I'm not held to that standard, because I find that really exhausting.
It's something which I also found as an interesting one to comment on the if you met one autistic person you found, is to some extent how much the person's background, how much their own sort of neurodivergent journey has affected it. So like I grew up in a family of engineers, very technical, so curiosity was always encouraged. So it's one of the reasons why I wasn't diagnosed till I was 33. And like, because, I was asking all crazy, I thought that was fine. Parents always, my dad thought it was adorable to, like, when his office was 3 and a printer, he'd bring it home, an 8-year-old me would disassemble. To stepping out into life in the business world and going, oh wait, people don't ask questions when they don't understand things? People just pretend?
Yes.
like to say that, and when I say it like that, it will sound ludicrous to anyone. But at the same time, for a lot of people who probably wind up watching this video, is like, if you really think about it, there have been times where you have just done, I'll figure it out as I go along.
Yes, that's true.
In a sense that I've also figured it out as I go along, but it's like, if someone there knows, like, growing up in the 90s, there was this thing of like men never read the instructions, the wise one. I was just like, what do you mean I'm reading the instructions? Well, why not? They're there, they make things easier.